Let's try that again. Let's see if we can get that again. Okay. I want to get it. Sorry, probably can't now. Hit it! Spyder, Spyder, here comes Spyder, CFL's Red Zone. Spyder, Spyder, here comes Spyder, CFL's Red Zone Rule. Hit it! In the red zone. Little late. Anyway, I'm back. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If I forget to say that, we have snow in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And here's one other thing I wanted to mention. I mean, I'm glad I'm back because there's more to talk about. That Rob Black, and I like to get my CFL Red-Zone Rule to Rob Black too. So there's quite a bit I need to cover yet because I didn't mention what I'm gonna do with this letter that I sent to Mr. Vanstone, and it was quite detailed, and there's a lot of pertinent points I put in it, and he read the whole thing and sent me an unbelievable reply back, you know, and I need to get this. I'm gonna get this to all the CFL owners. I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna do it. It's fantastic to hear someone say this after he received it, and you know, I took a couple days to write it, seriously. And Mr. Vanstone says the CFL playoffs kept making your case. It was uncanny, Spyder. Can you imagine? Uncanny. What a compliment. How am I going to get my CFL Red-Zone Rule out there to very important people? Because you just can't have it going to like the CFL Innovation Rules Committee, okay, with their meeting. You can't. It's got to go to the owners, all the owners. I mean, will the owners be in the meeting? I don't know. With football coaches and so forth. I mean, Mr. Armitage told me that the biggest obstacle I have to face is that they didn't come up with it themselves, and he said that's the only reason they wouldn't adopt it. But that was then, and now is now. And because now, like Mr. Vanstone said, I mean, they scripted for me. He said they made they made a real case for my CFL Red-Zone Rule to be adopted, and they told me that after my first presentation on the phone, my first formal presentation. I went over that one session, went over the whole presentation, my agenda, everything. That they were really intrigued with the concept, and they were really excited about my field diagram they love, the logos they love the concept, they love the features and benefits, but it's like Mr. Armitage said, the CFL are too scared to change, and they need to change. I think now, finally, they recognize they have to change. That's why my CFL Red-Zone Rule is so important right now. And they said to me, and sent me an email, and Mr. and Brody and the CFL sent me an email stating that if scoring trended downward, they would revisit it. Well, they have, and they're going to. But the problem wasn't presented in 2020. That's what my presentation says on my. If you watch, that's my last presentation, which is probably my best one. That's up on my CFL Red-Zone Rule Facebook page, when it says 2020. And by the way, it'll be 2022 now, because the 2020 season didn't happen. It was canceled. All their meetings, everything was canceled because of COVID and the pandemic and so forth. So now, I mean, it's made its case. CFL season, I mean, the scoring was way down. So many low-scoring games for too many points in field goals and too many points in non-eventful easy chip shot field goals in the red zone, and fewer and fewer touchdowns were scored this year in the CFL, and almost 4 points down in the red zone. Only 51% of an average percent of touchdowns scored in the red zone amongst 9 CFL teams, in the 2021 season. So it really makes a case for my CFL Red Zone Rule, for the CFL to really seriously look at it this time and focus on all the features and benefits and focus all the content, very pertinent, very powerful content in my presentation that you can read on my CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page. And very powerful numbers, stunning. Mr. Vanstone said just in the numbers alone, when they presented at 18% guarantee, said that's just in those stunning numbers that are compelling numbers, and they're all justifiable. And by the way, without my CFL Red Zone Rule, the CFL could never accomplish that 18% increase of more touchdowns scored in the red zone amongst 9 CFL teams. If my CFL Red Zone Rule is made part of a CFL 3-down game, it would be impossible. Could never happen. Can only happen with my CFL Red Zone Rule, and it will happen. And it even could go higher than that. So I mean, they have to look at all the contents in my CFL Red Zone Rule presentation that I posted up my CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page. Okay, and they have to look at all of it. And because there's so many powerful, compelling, convincing, very pertinent points and key selling features and benefits to my CFL Red Zone Rule and advantages of adopting that far outweigh any disadvantages. Well, actually, I couldn't find any. So if they do the pros and cons theory, that concept, they'll find that the pros far outweigh any cons. There aren't any. So I mean, let's see what happens. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, which I already did this morning, that important letter right here, and I'll try to go over more of it, the contents of it that I sent to Mr. Vanstone. That's so important. Attach my new CFL Red Zone Rule presentation that's being presented to the CFL Innovation Rules Committee 2022. That's up on my Facebook page. I'm going to attach that with this very important email that I sent to Mr. Vanstone, and I'm going to send it to all the CFL owners, and hopefully they'll probably pass it on the GMs. I mentioned that. I'm going to send it to, imagine if they all get this and they all read it, and that's what my objective is. And the new, imagine the new owner in Montreal, Mr. Stern. He would love to have this in his hands. So would the new owner, the BC Lions owner. So would, I'm telling you right now, Maple Leafs and Sports Entertainment in Toronto. They need to have this, and I'm going to get this to them. I'm going to get it to all of them. And I do have some emails that I saved that I can do this. I spent an hour or so on that. I found them. I'm ready to go. And I can do it. And I'm going to do it. So it's got to get out there. Now, to the CFL owners, all of them, and all the private community-owned CFL franchises as well. I have emails. I can do it. But what's really important is for it to expose to all the CFL fans, all the NFL fans, all the sports fans in general, and the mass market younger generation sports fans in Canada. It's so important that they have this. So important that they know about my CFL Red Zone Rule and are aware of it and know about all the features and benefits and what it can do, and the impact and how powerful it would be and how super exciting it would be. It would be the biggest new rule that the CFL has ever adopted, okay, in CFL history, and maybe in all of professional football. That's how big it would be. It would be a blockbuster. It would be a blockbuster and a real winner and a real game changer, okay? And it would also be a savior of our CFL 3-down game. And what's so remarkable about my CFL Red Zone Rule is it still preserves our CFL 3-down game. And that's what has to happen, because the CFL, I said, there's something I'll go over with that I said here in the letter to Mr. Vanstone. The CFL can't compete with the NFL with their big stadiums and their massive crowds, the much larger stadiums, and their big TV billion-dollar contracts, and their population, which is 10 times the size of Canada. They can't compete with that. But they can. But if they adopt my CFL Red Zone Rule, wisely adopted, they can compete with the NFL 4-down game of football versus the CFL 3-down game of football in the red zone okay, and compete their fourth down in the red zone versus our third down in the red zone. By the way, their fourth down in the red zone is a given. 4 downs, like I said in my previous session, 4 downs in the red zone is too many downs. It's like Doug Flutie said one time, you have to throw away a down. The game doesn't work. Well, you have to really throw away a down in the red zone, because 4 downs to get a touchdown in the red zone in a game of football, it's just a given. It's boring. You know they're going to score. If they don't, well, they should go home and play minor league football. Seriously, it's a joke. But like I said in my last session, 2-down football in the red zone, the CFL, where they play most of the time, because the majority of the time they don't go for it on the second, the third, the fourth, or 5th yard, or up to the 20-yard line in the red zone. They only go for it on the 1-yard line. Okay, so they're basically playing 2-down football in the CFL in the red zone, resulting in more non-eventful, boring, easy chip-shot field goals. Okay, would be all remarkably completely gone by CFL Red Zone Rule. So with my CFL Red Zone Rule being made part of a CFL 3-down game, which is an enforcement rule, they'd be playing 3-down football in the red zone, which is the perfect, ideal number of downs to score a touchdown in the red zone. It's perfect. And the Calhoun Tiger Cats would have won the Grey Cup if my CFL Red Zone Rule would have been made part of a CFL 3-down game. They would have won the Grey Cup, because they had a 10 and a 12-yard. They were on the 2-yard line, 3-yard. They had a 10 and a 12-yard easy chip shot field goal, which was non-eventful. But they were almost forced to. They were handcuffed because they're too scared to go for it in case it didn't get any points. And that's when my CFL Red Zone kick comes in. If they would have went for it in the Grey Cup, with my CFL Red Zone Rule in place, and they were stopped, not forced outside the red zone, maintaining possession of the ball in the red zone, they would have got my CFL Red Zone kick. Now, with the wind factor and so forth, it would have been interesting, but maybe the 35, that's what would be better from the 35. But, you know, I mean, you know, you got to be able to put that through with a wind factor, you know, a good kicker, you know. But still, they would have had a chance, you know. But they did take their field goal and tied and forced an overtime. But with my CFL Red Zone Rule, I guarantee you, I really believe they would have won it. Playing exciting 3-down football, because they were on the 2 or 3 yard line, first and goal. They had 3 chances. So with my CFL Red Zone Rule, enforced the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the 108th Grey Cup, okay, in Hamilton, imagine, their own backyard, with 20 seconds left, okay, or maybe 30 at that point. They would have had 3 chances with my CFL Red Zone Rule to score a touchdown. And what they got to do with my CFL Red Zone Rule as well, with the CFL Red Zone kick, the clock has to stop, okay, when they go to kick that, okay. They have to have enough time left in the clock, but then when they go to kick, the clock has to stop, okay. That's something I never put in my rules. I never thought about that, the time clock, the clock. But anyway, that's what would happen. I mean, they would probably figure that out, okay? So anyway, getting back to his letter, Mr. Vanstone, the letter, sorry, that I wrote Mr. Vanstone, that I'm so happy of and proud of. And it was, you know, it was probably a 5-minute read or so. So out of the 10, some of them I did talk about, marketing and branding. Here's something interesting, okay, about my CFL Red Zone Rule. And, like, they could sell the merchandise. They could sell my CFL Red Zone Rule. Look at the coffee cups. Look at the sweaters they could sell. CFL Red Zone Rule hats. And by the way, I would take my Spyder's name away. I'd give it to her free. It'd be free. Here, CFL, here's the biggest rule that CFL could ever adopt. My CFL Red Zone Rule. Here it is, free. Take the Spyders away, and it's a CFL Red Zone Rule. Okay? All right? So all the merchandise they could sell, and the sponsorship tags they could use, like with my Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule field diagram, what we call the CFL Red Zone field diagram. I mean, it's stunning, by the way. If you can take a look on my CFL Red Zone Rule Facebook page, in my presentation, take a look at the diagram with the red line, okay? 2 red lines on each side of the white line within the red zone, and the 20, same thing. The white 20 outlined in red on both sides, okay? of the 20-yard line and in both end zones. Can you imagine the graphic they could put down? I mean, they could actually put the CFL could put a CFL Red-Zone Rule logo in front of the red zone too. That would be good as well. And they could put one on the 35 CFL Red Zone kick as well. That would be cool. But they could do it with graphics with TSN. They could take their Spyder cam. Can you imagine taking the Spyder cam going down on Spyder's CFL Red Zone Rule in the red zone? Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be really cool. And by the way, can you imagine if they made a CFL, if CFL come up with a video game, play it with my CFL Red Zone Rule, and the graphics they could use with my CFL Red Zone Rule and CFL Red Zone Rule kick logos, it'd be fantastic. And CFL, could make a lot of money for the owners and for the CFL. It would be very lucrative. With merchandise sales and sponsorship tag sales and marketing and branding of my CFL Red Zone Rule, which would be theirs, by the way. Okay, I will give it to them. You know, can you imagine? That's because, I'll tell you why, because this is not about me. It's not about me. It's the love I have for the CFL, and I explained this to Mr. Vanstone in this very important email letter I sent him. And I titled it, Mr. Vanstone, the sports legend. That's what he is, by the way. And I said to him, I couldn't have chose a better person to send this very important, crucial letter to. Okay, especially now where they're talking to going the 4 downs. And our CFL, our game, like I said to him, can you imagine our Grey Cup game would be gone? Over 108 Grey Cups. Our the CFL 3-down game of football, over 100 years old. Our brand, our own brand of our own 3-down football, gone to be a third-rate 4-down American Football League in Canada. Can you imagine? So I'm fighting back my CFL Red Zone Rule. I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back hard. And I'm going to talk to Mr. Armitage too, because he works for CBC still, and he's going to do the Beijing Olympics, Winter Olympics. He did the Summer Olympics, and I'm going to talk to him and see if CBC may be interested in putting me on. Can you imagine if I get this out nationally? That's how all the sports fans and all the CFL, NFL fans, only NFL fans that the CFL needs, and they would, by the way, they would gravitate to my CFL Red Zone Rule. I know because I surveyed him, interviewed him, and introduced my CFL Red Zone Rule to them during my 3.5-year survey, and they were all blown away. And the younger generation too, CFL fans, NFL only fans, they're all blown away by my CFL Red Zone Rule, and they would all start watching CFL 3-down football if my super exciting CFL Red Zone Rule, by the way, that's naturally tailor-made for CFL 3-down football, my CFL Red Zone Rule, if it was made part of a CFL 3-down game, it would increase attendance just like that in season ticket sales. It would drive them, I'm telling you right now. And the launch that they could do, and the excitement around my CFL Red Zone Rule and the buzz would be unbelievable. The CFL, are you listening? Okay, and the CFL owners. Anyway, so I have a plan, and I'm going to work that plan, and I gotta put the full press on now, full press. Okay, let's see. Something was in my mind I was going to say, and it just slipped my mind. But maybe I can find it in here. Yeah, what's so remarkable. I covered that. I'm just going to do this quickly here. I talked about the branding. Okay, I talked about that. I covered a lot of it, marketing and so forth. In closing, and then the 10th one I said, which is the most important one, especially now, I said to Mr. Vanstone, because my proposed new super exciting, naturally tailor-made for CFL 3-down football, Spyder's CFL Red Zone Rule, can literally save our CFL 3-down game of football from being taken over by the NFL 4-down football, and CFL football becoming a 4-down football game like the American game of football. I say this is pretty scary, and maybe explains why at the 100th Grey Cup in Hamilton, Mr. Ambrosi, the commissioner of CFL, was booed by 26,000 CFL fans at the 100th Grey Cup in Hamilton. CFL fans do not want to lose our three-down game of football, nor lose our identity. Mr. Vanstone, I believe the reason the Commissioner and the CFL are openly talking about going to 4 downs is because they want to merge with the XFL, or the NFL, or the NFL wants to control the CFL to play 4-down football, to make CFL their primary farm league to draw from and pay the CFL money to do it, which I believe would be the end of the CFL and the XFL as well, if this was to happen. What football, I say, what the CFL has to do is change and finally bring in a new CFL rule that's actually going to make our CFL 3-down game of football itself better, and make it more appealing, and make it more exciting, and make it more entertaining. A more entertaining and a more exciting brand of CFL 3-down football to watch. And that will attract the mass market younger generation sports fans in Canada to a new and more entertaining and more exciting brand of CFL 3-down football, who the CFL desperately needs as CFL fans if they have any chance to grow their fan base and grow their brand of CFL 3-down football. And Mr. Vanstone, I say, there is only one new CFL rule that can possibly do that, and like you said, has clearly made its case to prove why it should be made part of our CFL 3-down game of football. And that's my proposed new, super exciting, nationally tailor-made for CFL 3-down football, Spyder CFL Red-Zone Rule. And at the same time, it will still remarkably still preserve our 3-down game football. That was pretty powerful stuff, that paragraph. And the next one's very powerful too. And it's true, like I say here, Mr. Vanstone, I worked extremely hard on the project for over 5 years because of the passion and love I have for the CFL 3-down game of football, and not for myself, only because I want to try to help make our CFL 3-down game of football better and more attractive and more entertaining and more exciting, which I truly believe I have. And like Steve Arms told me, don't ever stop working hard to make your dream come true and to have your CFL Red-Zone Rule come to fruition. Mr. Vanstone, I told the CFL, oh yeah, I get into that, okay. Anyway, things that we went over in our meetings we had when I presented my CFL Red-Zone Rule to Mr. Ambrosi and the CFL. I told them that I would give, it would be theirs. You know, my CFL Red-Zone Rule would be theirs. I'd take my Spyder's name off it, tag, and it'd be theirs. All theirs, okay? And I worked over 5 years in my CFL Red-Zone Rule, and I did it. I did it because the love and passion I have for the game, and seeing it becoming more and more unpopular, and the NFL becoming more and more popular, you know, and because of the survey I did, which was unprecedented at first by a CFL fan, on why are there so many Canadians, Canadian sports fans in Canada only watching the NFL and not the CFL, our own brand of CFL football in our own country. That was the survey, and that's how I gathered, and in my findings I gathered data and enough to really work hard for over 5 years to come up with my CFL Red-Zone Rule. And you know, I tweaked it and refined it and finally come up with a final finished product. That's done now. There's an optional provision part of my rule, okay, that's only optional, that you can read up on my CFL Red-Zone Rule Facebook pages in my presentation. It's all there. But, you know, I mean, CFL would have to decide. That would be in the last 10 seconds of the game. You can read about it in my CFL Red-Zone Rule presentation on my Facebook page. And if they didn't, because they'd like just my CFL Red-Zone Rule to play out on itself, just play out, you know, on itself, just naturally, okay, without the optional provision part. So that's in there. Everything is in there. You got to check it out. Okay, I put that up there. It's powerful stuff. Like one thing interesting that I read, Rod Black, this guy I like to get my CFL Red-Zone Rule too. You know, it's too bad TSN dismissed him. I mean, they want to save money. But he's Rod Black TV, and he put something on Atlantic Schooner site, and he says that he was talking to Ambrosi at the 100th Grey Cup in Hamilton, and he said that Mr. Ambrosi, the commissioner of the CFL, that was going to have a meeting with the Atlantic Schooners, you know, ownership group, okay, organization, you know. in a week. That's what he said. He posted it, and he said, and discussed Touchdown Atlantic for the 2022 season in Halifax, which was scheduled for the 2020 season. Okay, so I got a minute and a half left, so I wanted to cover that. I covered it pretty well, everything in the letter, and I don't know if there's anything else here that I had on here. That I had made a couple notes, okay? But I just want to thank you so much for watching my videos and supporting me. Hit subscribe. I never ever say that, but please do. And you know, everything is live takes here, okay? I put down the CBA collective bargaining, you know, talks with the Canadian Players Association, which you know, I believe they have to demolish, personally. I tell you the truth, because they're hypocritical. I mean, they go down in the NFL, they want one-year contracts. The Canadian players are as bad or worse than the American players, because they're basically controlling the CFL with the Canadian ratio that is not popular, and all sports fans that I know, they want to see, no matter what professional sports product they're looking at, they want to watch only the best available players play, and start and play for a whole entire game, whether it's baseball, Major League Baseball, NBA, the NFL, and the NHL, and Major League Soccer, the MLS, which, by the way, they play the best players, okay, available, most talented players available. So the Canadian ratio and the Canadian Players Association are basically running the CFL and controlling and handcuffing the CFL, and dictating who starts and play in supposedly a professional football league. Can't do it. And that's got to be changed, along with the one-year contracts. Spyder, here comes Spyder, CFL Red-Zone Rule. Let's hope that CFL this time, and Mr. Ambrosi, they do the right thing, and I'm going to get it out to everybody. Take care, Spyder.